folks, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. We are currently going through the book of 1 Samuel. We're doing this chapter by chapter. So it'll be nice for you to listen to the end because I'll be sharing my key takeouts from the chapter that we will be reading today at the end of this recording. Also, please remember to share this with someone else, to subscribe, and to hit the notification bell so that you never miss any new recording. Today we're going to be reading 1 Samuel chapter 21, which I'll be reading from the NLT version. So kindly follow through and listen to the story, and then let's talk about the takeouts at the end. All right, let's see what's happening. So in the last chapter, which is like yesterday, in the last chapter, we read about how Jonathan came and warned David and told him, by the way, yes, my dad is going to kill you, so please run away. So that's the place at where we are at. David has started his journey of fleeing from Saul. All right, let's read and see what it says. Here it says, David went to the town of Nob to see Ahimelech the priest. Ahimelech trembled when he saw him. "Why are you alone?" he asked. "Why is no one with you?" "The king has sent me on a private matter," David said. This definitely was a lie. "He told me not to tell anyone why I am here. So I've told my men where to meet me later. Now, what is there to eat? Give me 5 loaves of bread or anything else you have." "We don't have any regular bread," the priest replied, "but there is the holy bread, which you can have if your young men have not slept with any women recently." "Don't worry," David replied. "I never allow my men to be with women when we are on a campaign. And since they stay clean even on an ordinary trip, how much more on this one?" Since there was no other food available, the priest gave him the holy bread, the bread of the presence that was placed before the Lord in the tabernacle. It had just been replaced that day with fresh bread. Now Doeg, someone called Doeg. Now Doeg the Edomite, Saul's chief huntsman, was there that day, having been detained before the Lord. So David asked Ahimelech, "Do you have a spear or sword?" The king's business was so urgent that I didn't even have time to grab a weapon. "I only have the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah," the priest replied. "It is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. Take that if you want it, for there is nothing else here." "There is nothing like it," David replied. "Give it to me." So David escaped from Saul and went to King Achish of Gath. But the officers of Achish were unhappy about his being there. "Isn't this David, the king of the land?" they asked. "Isn't he the one people honor with dances and singing? Saul has killed his thousands, and David has killed his 10,000s. David heard these comments, and he was afraid of what King Achish of Gath might do to him. So he pretended to be insane, scratching the doors and drooling down his beard. Hey, Jesus. Finally, King Achish said to the men, "Must you bring me a madman? We already have enough of them around here. Why should I let someone like this be my guest?" All right, that's the end of the chapter. So in this chapter, David has run from Saul, and he has ended up in a town of Nob. And then he went to see this guy called Ahimelech the priest. And then because of course he's hungry, he's just run away. He doesn't have a sword. He has nothing. He's just run away. So he asks for bread so that he can be refreshed. And he's given the bread that is the one that is usually put at the presence of the Lord. And then he asks for a sword because this guy is about to start running and fleeing for his life, and he doesn't even have a weapon. So he's given the sword that belonged to Goliath. But there's a guy here called Doeg the Edomite, and we will see why this guy is mentioned in this chapter. So this guy is Saul's chief huntsman, and he was there when David was talking to Ahimelech. So he actually had those conversations. He witnessed that David was actually there. All right, so David then again leaves that place and escapes and went to the king of Achish of Gath. But the officers of King Achish were unhappy because they were like, but this guy is the guy that people have been singing praises about. He's the guy who killed Goliath, and he's been such a good warrior that people actually are singing praises for him. So when David hears these things, he's just like, well, this guy, this King Achish of Gath might not be very happy with me because I'm here. I'm probably threatening his throne. So he was just like, let me just pretend to be insane and start scratching doors, rooting on my beard so that the guy leaves me alone. And that is exactly what happened. So it's starting to look like, well, David's life is all about running from Saul. I mean, David stayed with Ahimelech, the priest, under false pretenses while fleeing from Saul. He then pretended to be insane to avoid the Philistines' wrath. You see, the thing is, David deceived Ahimelech and the Philistines because he was afraid of what would happen if others knew that he was on the run from Saul. After trusting the Lord so diligently, David began making decisions from a place of fear instead of faith. I don't know whether it's from a place of fear instead of faith, or it's just being street smart. But he's not making decisions from a place of fear. He thought that he was protecting himself in both instances. But the deeper issue, however, was David's apparent lack of trust in God to deliver him from the wrath of Saul. David seemed to forget that God would make him king, and Saul's threat could not prevent that. God said he will make you king. So this guy clearly can't kill. You're the hero in this story. You can't die. It's like a movie where you're just like, this is the hero. This hero can't die. It doesn't matter how bad things look. It doesn't matter how bad the villain looks. It doesn't matter how many blows he's received. He won't die. But fear is a natural response to the feeling of danger. It is a natural response. But like other parts of our nature, we need to take a step to overcome the negative effects of being afraid. Because fear can paralyze us and prevent us from making choices that are led by the Spirit of God. And overcoming fear requires an act of the will. It is a conscious decision to redirect your mind from focusing on possible negative outcomes to trusting in God and to trusting the plan that God has for you. Sometimes I find that when I'm afraid, I'm not necessarily afraid of something that is happening. I'm afraid of things that could happen. So I take negative outcomes, I imagine negative outcomes in future, and I start panicking about them now. And that can be so paralyzing. It can cause you to not even make a step ahead. Like when you start to, now you're taking things that could happen, not things that have happened. You're taking things that could happen in future. You're bringing them to your present and you're getting panicky about them. You're getting afraid about things that could happen in future. Not that they have happened, could happen in future. Fear can be paralyzing and it can prevent us from making choices that are led by the Spirit of God. So again, to overcome fear, you require an act of the will. You require to consciously decide to redirect your mind from focusing on possible, because they haven't happened, possible negative outcomes, to trusting in God and the plan that He has for you. So my challenge for you today is take some time today to examine your motives and emotions. Examine your motives and emotions. So the question here is, are you operating from a place of fear or from a place of faith? And the decisions that you're making based on the feeling of fear or based on the fact that you are trusting God? This is your girl Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.